Okay, so my name's Mark Douglas. I am Managing Director for Europe for PrimeRevenue, and I'm going to be talking to Simon Nuttall from the Co-op today. So Simon, if you could give yourself a bit of an introduction and tell us a little bit about Co-op as well, and explain your involvement in the supply chain finance program, that would be a great place to start.
Sure. Hi, Mark. So my name's Simon Nuttall. I look after tax, treasury and insurance for the Co-op Group. A bit of background about the Co-op. It's one of the UK's leading food retailers. We supply more than 3,700 stores and we employ about 60,000 people. We're one of the world's largest cooperatives, and that makes us a little bit different because as a cooperative, we exist to make the world a fairer and better place for our members and their communities. So we try to champion a better way of doing business built on cooperation. And we, in the context of the discussion today, we found that supply chain finance can help achieve this, especially by giving suppliers access to a cheaper cost of funding and speeding up their cash receipts.
I always enjoy, when we start a relationship with a business that I'm actually a big customer of. I've got a Co-op just around the corner from my house. But coming back to supply chain finance, Simon, can you tell us a bit about your previous experience with this at the Co-op?
Sure. Yeah, and great to hear that you're one of our over, I think it's 4.5 million members we've got at the moment. So I won't go too much into membership, but anybody watching this, please sign up. So in terms of supply chain finance, Co-op's had a number of programs in the past. Those have tended to be single bank platforms, and we found that they lacked the ability to scale up as we would have liked. And as a result, they didn't really support the large, broad customer base, supplier base that we have. We also found that single platform pricing tended to be a little bit on the high side, and that meant it was more expensive overall for our suppliers. Doesn't really fit with the cooperative principles that we have. Okay,
so the current situation wasn't optimal, but what was the big motivator for exploring other options?
There were a few motivations really. Firstly, we knew that of the potential that supply chain finance could have to improve cash flow for both Co-op and for our suppliers. But the single bank program had limits and meant we weren't able to penetrate as much of our supplier base as we would have liked, and we knew we could. So that led us to seek a better and more inclusive method of providing suppliers with early payment to help them with their cash flow. That was really the first reason. Secondly, Co-op's going through a period of business transformation at the moment, and we wanted supply chain finance to support our own working capital initiatives. Those included standardising payment terms across the supply chain, and it was also important for us that any solution that we implemented would help refine and improve the efficiency of the business without having negative impacts at all on our own cash flow position.
Sure. So can you just expand a bit on those program aims?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with the timing that we did this, because it was as coronavirus was just coming into the news as we were looking to implement a new program, and then as we started to implement it, lockdown was beginning. So our main driver at the time is we could see the impact that all of that was going to have on our supplier base. And we have a supply chain that moves very quickly. People are buying things from our stores all the time, and that needs to be replenished. So we wanted to offer our suppliers a steady hand during times of disruption that would help them and it would help us. And the solution that you guys offered not only provided that reliable source of liquidity for our suppliers, and help them to navigate those initial uncertain times. Obviously, it's still going on, but it also acted as a powerful working capital tool to help Co-op fuel its investments in the business further down the line. We had three kind of objectives to help us secure that goal. So firstly, we wanted to build a scalable solution that would help us support larger amounts of supply chain finance over time. Secondly, we wanted to improve and stabilise the working capital for suppliers and for Co-op. And thirdly, we wanted the programme to be able to grow with the addition of new funders within Co-op's banking syndicate and beyond as required. I think I mentioned we had a programme before as well. So one of the aims was also to need to transition the suppliers from the existing programme onto the PrimeRevenue platform. And we wanted to do that as quickly and seamlessly as possible.
So we're obviously, thrilled that you chose us, but why did you transition to a PrimeRevenue-led programme?
Well, we really liked the platform. We saw a number of vendors, and we were also confident that the approach that you guys took would allow us to support that broader range of suppliers. An added benefit was that we knew about 60% of our target suppliers were already familiar with PrimeRevenue and the platform. And we especially liked the permanence that the platform offered. So it didn't matter whether a single bank came or went, the platform was always there, the funders sit behind it and can change as necessary. That provides stability both for ourselves and for our suppliers.
So I guess you bought into that promise, and and you've talked about all the things that we do and we're really proud of. But could you walk us through the implementation process? So what really happened, I guess?
So we've been eager to transition our suppliers onto the new finance program as quickly as we could and get that up and running pre-coronavirus. But as that hit, that put even more pressure on ourselves to ensure our supply chain was robust and to implement the program as quickly as possible. We knew that a wider range of our suppliers would likely want to access early payment, and that getting this in place would be critical in helping them to withstand that disruption. We were, having partnered with yourselves, you helped us to design that program, complete all the technical investigations necessary, and to get it up and running in just 60 days, which, given that was during lockdown as well, feels like it was a really great achievement. In order to actually get the implementation running, we had a cross-departmental alignment that would be necessary in any organisation. And we created a project team which consisted of finance, treasury, procurement, IT, and we agreed on objectives, key milestones, and we monitored those regularly as the programme implementation progressed. Our buying teams and our procurement teams were heavily involved in the initiative, and they partnered with Prime's implementation teams to make sure that suppliers were identified and they were supported fully throughout the onboarding process. Our IT colleagues were also involved, as you'd expect. Their key areas were on the technical integrations pipeline, if you like, that allows invoices and trading information to go back into between ourselves and the platform, and then the platform and funders. And that made it a real success.
I have to say, Simon, it was great to see your organisation, come together the way it did to deliver in the timeframes that we needed to. Say, if it wasn't for the work and the cohesion that you managed to, I guess, foster within the organisation, we never would have got there.
I think that inevitably any program, any new implementation, there are ups and downs and there are challenges that you come across, and we had them on this program definitely. But I think the team at Co-op and the team at PrimeRevenue worked really closely together and were able to overcome those. And it's testament to the fact that we managed to do it in such a short amount of time, as to the dedication that all sides gave to it, I'd say. So
we managed to get through the implementation. Can you tell us a bit about the actual supplier onboarding process?
Yeah, we found this part to be relatively easy from our perspective, and I guess that's because most of it was handled by PrimeRevenue. Once we'd approved the suppliers, there was a fairly simple online onboarding process to get the suppliers to their cash. So for those suppliers that were already familiar with the PrimeRevenue platform, they just had to do a few clicks, a couple of uploads of documentation. Once they were approved then by PrimeRevenue, that application was forwarded to the funders. The funders approved that, and once that had been done, they were activated and able to trade almost immediately. We found that to be a far more efficient and swift process than it had been on previous programs, where they were more paper-based, shall we say, and reliant on snail mail. We found that having your dedicated supplier team involved helped tremendously and took a lot of the heavy lifting off this. And that meant that suppliers who weren't familiar with the platform and maybe weren't as tech savvy could get face-to-face discussions and any training they needed to get them fully onboarded quickly and a level of understanding. We found that most in this day and age, the platform's very easy to use. We're just able to click through and navigate it themselves.
Could you provide an update on the progress of the program thus far?
Yeah, the program's relatively new, given where we are, and I'd say it's been firstly a success given the situation we were in with the pandemic to be able to implement it in the time that we did. We were able to transition the legacy program that we had at the single bank platform. We took all of the suppliers off that onto the new platform within 2 weeks, which felt like that was a real achievement. We are now looking at onboarding further suppliers, and because we know that the situation continues, and even if it didn't, suppliers always like access to accelerated payment. We've seen about 90% of the invoices that are on the platform being traded and advanced for early payment, which I guess is reflective of the situation and what I've just said. We'll continue to onboard suppliers onto the platform, and I think it'll just become business as usual, part of our everyday thinking with our supply chain and reviews of that.
Sean, what do you think has been the biggest value driver of the program?
The stability, I'd say, Mark. The fact that our suppliers have a sense of stability in amongst everything that's going on is a real factor. They know that they've got a reliable source of liquidity and they can pull as much or as little as they need to help them withstand the economic challenges. It's important to us. We don't need holes in our supply chain, and times are difficult at the moment. So this is a real anchor amongst the storm as we see it. The longevity of the program is also important to Co-op. We're not entirely dependent on a few funders and their whims as to whether they stay in supply chain finance or not, or what their appetite is. So the technology pipeline that we've got between Co-op and PrimeRevenue is there. It will remain unchanged. Funders can be added or subtracted as they wish under that, and that gives us a sense of stability, and therefore it gives our suppliers that sense of permanence and stability too.
Sure. Obviously you've had lots of learnings now and a bit of experience with this. What would be your advice for companies interested in exploring supply chain finance?
I think I'd say firstly that not all supply chain finance offerings in the marketplace are the same. So my advice would be to really consider all of the benefits that supply chain finance can offer. I think most companies understand that the working capital benefits that are on offer but that's not the only upside. In our case, a key driver was injecting a sense of stability into our supply chain by offering suppliers access to early payment, especially in today's environment. And I think a lot of companies have probably find themselves in a similar situation of asking themselves what they could do to support and fortify their own supply chains. And for Co-op, we found that this supply chain finance program allowed us to provide that critical assistance, and it didn't negatively impact our working capital in any way. And that's truly a win-win for everyone, and that's very much in the spirit of Co-op's ethos.
Look, Simon, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It's been great to catch up on the program, and I'll look forward to hopefully seeing you soon, maybe in person, who knows. But yeah, thank you again, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mark. Good to speak to you. Take care.
Yeah.